Andrew, your positivity is very obvious. What I'd like to ask you, though, I didn't hear the word funding for local government once in the whole of that speech. I heard it from Stephen and the lack of it that he obviously could see, and there are many local authority highways providers in this room who watch their budgets slashed time and time and time again to pay for adult social care and children, and there is no local funding going into what is ultimately more than 75% of the network. You talk about the strategic network time and time again, but you talk nothing about local government. What is it you're going to do to help them?
We have been able to provide certainty in some areas of local government finance. For example, we have been able to provide clarity on the maintenance budgets into local government for some years ahead, but it is clearly true that local government budgets are under some pressure, and the pressure is, I think, mainly in the areas where they have social services requirements. Some councils are therefore under significantly greater pressure than others. I am really commenting on the areas that I can control, and I can't really comment on the areas that I can't control. The point about maintenance funding is that people do need to have certainty. We've been able to provide that. We might be able to provide more in terms of local major schemes, but I think the point is fair. But local councils, I think, have responded well to the challenge. In fact, there's a slight irony that local government approval ratings by the public are at one of their very highest levels ever.
The DfT have said they'd spend 500 million of capital funding on sustainable local transport over this Parliament, but that's been rolled up into the local growth fund, where the vast majority of schemes aren't sustainable local projects. Can the Minister provide any guarantee that 500 million of capital funding will actually be spent on sustainable transport over this Parliament?
Well, you'll see money spent on sustainable transport in a number of different ways. That budget is going out as part of local growth funds, and we're trying to not ring-fence budgets as much as we have in the past. This is a part of aligning accountability and responsibility. Ring-fencing of budgets or having targets were effectively a subtle means of national control over local people, and we're trying to remove some of those barriers. So local decision-making will be a feature, but you will see significant investment. There's no question about that. We have got an element of sustainable transport in the RIS, for example, where you will see cycling facilities invested in. You will see that as part of rail investment. You will see it when we publish cycling and walking strategies, which will be happening quite shortly. So this is work in progress. You will see some documents very shortly, which will provide you with much reassurance.
Stephen, you said because of land shortages and other things, we won't be building any more roads. And I remember very clearly after SACTRA, which I think a lot of people have forgotten about, that if you'd known what SACTRA came out with, you wouldn't have built as many roads as you have. Now, the Highways England has got a massive increase in road building, and on the fringe of urban areas, a lot of it is, because that's where the congestion is. It worries me that 2.4% of the network is getting a lot of money for road building, but the other 98.6% of the road network is going to have to manage all the extra traffic that is generated by the trunk road system with no money, and no money to mend it either. I don't know where we go from here, Frank.
Well, I wouldn't say there was no money. We're from a national government perspective, allocating significant funding out through local growth funds. From a DfT perspective, we're putting £1 billion a year into local growth funds as a contribution from across government. There's a £6 billion local maintenance budget, and there are other budgets as well that are going out. So I wouldn't say no money. It is clearly right that we are investing significantly in the strategic network, because that is the connectivity which is, if you like, the arteries, the road arteries of our national economy. But that doesn't mean to say that we don't invest in some of the veins as well, and that is happening. And only last week, I went down to Devon to open the South Devon Highway, which connects Newton Abbot and Torquay, and it's a fantastic scheme. So there are schemes happening like this all over the country. Tomorrow morning, in fact, I'm going up to see the M1 A5 link road, new roads being built. So I wouldn't quite characterise things to be as black and white or as gloomy as you do.
Okay, can I sneak in a chair's prerogative with one very quick question, as your phone hasn't gone off there? We had a suggestion earlier that one way of handling the uncertainty in the technology is, we have the vision of how it might be, how you've described it, but whether a digital strategy for highways would be useful, as in we've got the digital railway, and I just wondered if you think that would be a useful thing to help us bridge that gap between where we are now and where we want to go with the technology.
Well, we are developing such a strategy, and I have had meetings with Highways England and within the department on the subject, and we'll be having more, as the Prime Minister might say at Prime Minister's questions. So this is clearly a part of making our road network fit for the future. The digital world presents fantastic opportunities, and we just need to make sure we grasp them in all areas. Highways are clearly a part of that. All transport modes, I think, are clearly going to be a part of that. So clearly, all I can say is we're on the case. You'll hear much more of that over the months ahead.
Yes, we've got uncertainty, but embracing that uncertainty and making the most of the certainty that we do have now is the clear theme. So thank you so much for your time, both of you. Thank you. Thank you very much. Have a lovely evening. Thank you.